When my son Marcus and his wife Jessica showed up at my door after 3 whole months, they looked broken. Their expensive clothes were wrinkled. Their faces were pale. Their eyes were red from crying. They stood on my porch with their suitcases, the same ones they had packed when they left me to go live in Jessica's mother's mansion. But here's the thing that made the taxi driver's mouth drop open. I didn't let them in. Not right away. I stood in my doorway, looked at them up and down, and said words that made Jessica's face turn white with shock. But I'm getting ahead of myself. To understand why I did what I did, you need to know the whole story. You need to know what they put me through. You need to know how they destroyed me and how I built myself back up into someone completely different. If you want to see how this story ends, please like this video, share it with someone who needs to hear it, and subscribe so you never miss stories like this one. Now, let me take you back to where it all began. My name is Margaret, and I'm 64 years old. I live in a small 2-story house in Detroit. It's not fancy. It's not big, but it's mine. I bought this house 30 years ago with money from my husband's life insurance. You see, my husband died when Marcus was only 8 years old. One morning, he kissed me goodbye and went to work at the construction site. By afternoon, I got a phone call that changed everything. There had been an accident. My husband was gone.
Just like that.
No warning. No chance to say goodbye. I was left alone with a little boy, some bills to pay, and that insurance check. I could have spent that money on anything, but I knew what mattered most. I bought this house. I gave my son a home, a place where he would always be safe. For 25 years, I worked as a secretary at an accounting office. The pay wasn't much, but it was enough. I worked hard every single day. Sometimes I worked extra hours when other people called in sick. I saved every penny I could. I bought Marcus's school supplies. I paid for his clothes. I cooked his meals. I helped him with his homework late at night when I was so tired I could barely keep my eyes open. Marcus never went hungry. He never went to school in torn clothes. He never missed a field trip because we couldn't afford it. I made sure of that. Even when it meant I wore the same old dress for years. Even when it meant I cut my own hair to save money. Even when it meant I ate less so he could eat more. I was his mother and his father. I was everything he needed.
And you know what?
He turned out wonderful. He studied hard. He got good grades. He went to college and became an engineer. He got a job at a big company. I cried tears of joy the day he got that job. I thought to myself, Margaret, you did it. All those years of struggle, they were worth it. I was so proud of him. Then, SHE showed up. Jessica. Marcus met her 4 years ago at a work conference. She worked in public relations, whatever that means. The first time he brought her to meet me, I was so excited. I cleaned the house from top to bottom. I cooked my best meal, my famous fried chicken, macaroni and cheese, and collard greens. I wore my nicest dress. I wanted her to like me. The moment she walked through my door, I knew something was wrong. She looked at my house like it was dirty. She looked at my furniture like it was garbage. She looked at me like I was nobody. When I reached out to hug her, she stuck out her hand instead. A cold, limp handshake. Like touching me would make her sick. Nice to meet you, she said, but her voice was flat. Empty. Her eyes were already looking around the room, judging everything. During dinner, she barely touched her food. I saw her push the chicken around her plate. I saw her wrinkle her nose at the macaroni. My heart sank. I had worked so hard on that meal. The food is great, Mom, Marcus said, eating fast like he always did. Jessica just smiled. But it wasn't a real smile. It was the kind of smile you give someone when you're being polite but you really want to leave. After they left that night, I stood in my kitchen washing dishes, and I felt something heavy in my chest. A bad feeling. Like a storm was coming. I was right. 6 months later, they got married. It was a small wedding because I didn't have money for anything big. Marcus didn't want me to go into debt. So we kept it simple. I cooked all the food myself. I decorated the community center with flowers from my garden. I did everything I could to make it special. Jessica's mother, Victoria Sterling, didn't even come to the wedding. She sent an expensive gift and a note saying she was traveling in Europe on business. But I think the truth is she didn't think my son was good enough for her daughter. At the wedding, I heard Jessica talking to her cousin. I was walking past with a tray of food, and her words hit me like a slap. "This food tastes like cheap takeout," she whispered. "I can't believe this is my wedding." I pretended I didn't hear. I smiled. I kept serving food. But inside, my heart was breaking. After the wedding, Marcus and Jessica needed a place to live while they saved money. "Can we stay with you, Mom?" Marcus asked. "Just for a few months. Just until we can afford our own place." Of course I said yes.
He was my son.
My house was his house. I was happy to have him back. I fixed up the best bedroom for them. I put fresh sheets on the bed. I put flowers on the dresser. I wanted them to feel welcome. "It's temporary," Jessica said when they moved in. She said it like she was trying to convince herself. From the very first night, the complaint started. "This house smells old," Jessica said, wrinkling her nose. "The bathroom is too small," she complained the next morning. "This furniture looks like it came from the trash," she announced to Marcus loud enough for me to hear from the kitchen. Every single day, there was something new to criticize. The walls needed paint. The carpet was ugly. The kitchen was outdated. My cooking was too greasy. My TV was too old. My garden was messy. At first, Marcus would laugh nervously and say, "Mom, Jessica just isn't used to, simpler things. Try to understand." I did try to understand. I bit my tongue. I swallowed my hurt feelings. I kept cooking and cleaning and trying to make them comfortable. I thought maybe if I tried harder, Jessica would start to like me, start to appreciate what I was doing for them. But things only got worse. Jessica stopped eating my food completely. She would order expensive meals from fancy restaurants and leave the empty containers all over the house for me to clean up. She would have her friends over and apologize for having to meet at such a humble little place. I heard her on the phone one day. "I know, Mother, I know. You were right about everything. I should have listened to you." Marcus started coming home later and later from work. He would go straight to their bedroom and close the door. I could hear them arguing through the walls. I could hear Jessica crying, saying she couldn't live like this anymore, saying she deserved better, saying her mother was right about Marcus making a huge mistake. Then, Victoria Sterling started visiting. And that's when everything went from bad to worse. Victoria Sterling didn't just visit my house. She invaded it. She would arrive in her shiny black car with a driver. Yes, a driver. Like she was some kind of queen. She wore clothes that probably cost more than I made in 3 months. Diamond earrings. Expensive perfume that filled my whole house with a smell that seemed to say, "I'm better than you." She would walk into my living room like she was inspecting a dirty restaurant. Her eyes would move slowly over my furniture, my walls, my curtains. Then she would sit on the very edge of my sofa, like she was afraid my poverty would rub off on her. And then she would talk. "Marcus, darling," she would say in that smooth, cold voice. "You have so much potential. You've built a good career despite your humble beginnings." She would pause after humble like it was a dirty word. "With the right connections, you could go so much further." Then she would turn to look at me. "Margaret," she would say with a fake smile that never reached her eyes. "It's truly admirable what you've done. Raising a boy all alone with so little. Not everyone is fortunate enough to be born into a good position in life." I would smile back. I would nod. I would offer her tea that she never drank. And inside, I would feel smaller and smaller, like I was disappearing. But I stayed quiet. For Marcus. Always for Marcus. Victoria's visits became more and more frequent. She would take Marcus aside and talk to him in low voices. I would see Jessica hanging on every word her mother said. I would see Marcus's face change from proud to ashamed. Ashamed of me. Ashamed of this house. Ashamed of where he came from. One evening, about 6 months after they moved in, Victoria came for dinner. I had cooked a simple meal, pot roast with vegetables. Nothing fancy, but good food. Honest food. Victoria took one bite and put down her fork. She said, dabbing her lips with a napkin. I've been thinking. Jessica and Marcus have been living here for quite some time now. Surely, you must be tired of having them underfoot, Margaret. My heart started beating faster. I didn't like where this was going. Oh no, I said quickly. I love having them here. They're no trouble at all. Victoria's smile got bigger. Well, that's very sweet of you to say, but I have a proposal. She looked at Marcus and Jessica. I have a mansion. 12 bedrooms. 8 bathrooms.
A pool.
A garden with fountains. It's far too big for just me. Jessica's eyes went wide. She grabbed Marcus's hand. I'd like you both to come live with me, Victoria continued. Marcus, you'd have your own home office. Jessica would have everything she's been missing. And Margaret. She turned to look at me. Margaret could finally have her house back to herself. Her peace and quiet. Surely at your age, you'd prefer to live alone? The words hit me like stones. I started to speak, but my voice came out tiny. I don't mind them being here. Really? Mom, Marcus said slowly. This could be a really good opportunity for us. Think about it, darling, Jessica added, her voice excited. A real home. Not. She looked around my kitchen. Not this. I felt my eyes fill with tears, but I blinked them back. I wouldn't cry. Not in front of Victoria Sterling. Of course, I whispered. If that's what you want. That night, I lay in bed and stared at the ceiling. I could hear Marcus and Jessica upstairs, laughing and talking excitedly about the mansion, about their new life. Nobody came down to ask if I was okay. Nobody seemed to care that I was losing my son all over again. 2 weeks later, they packed their bags. Victoria sent her driver to pick them up in that fancy car. I stood on the porch watching them load their suitcases. All those clothes I had washed and ironed for them. All those meals I had cooked that Jessica wouldn't eat. All that love I had poured into making them comfortable. Jessica was practically dancing with excitement. She turned to me before getting in the car and shouted loud enough for all the neighbors to hear. Auntie in this dusty old house, you washed-up old-timer. My neighbors stepped out onto their porches. Mrs. Chun from next door. Mr. Johnson across the street. They all heard it. They all saw the look on my face. Marcus didn't say one word. He didn't tell Jessica to apologize. He didn't hug me goodbye. He just loaded the last suitcase, got in the driver's seat, and drove away. I stood there frozen on my porch. I watched that car disappear down the street. I watched it turn the corner and vanish from sight. And something inside me broke. I walked back into my house and closed the door. The silence was deafening. For the first time in months, the house was mine again. But it felt empty. So terribly, horribly empty. That first week, I cried every day. I would walk past the bedroom they had used and see it empty. I would cook dinner and realize I was only cooking for one. I would hear a car outside and rush to the window, hoping it was Marcus coming back to say he was sorry. But he never came. The first month passed. No phone call. No text message. Nothing. I called Marcus 3 times. Each time, it went to voicemail. I left messages. Hi honey, it's Mom. Just wanted to see how you're doing. Call me back when you can. He never did. I sent text messages. Thinking of you. Hope you're well. Love you. No response. It was like I had died to them. The second month was harder. I stopped calling. I stopped texting. What was the point? They had made their choice. They had chosen Victoria's mansion over me. They had chosen money and comfort over the woman who had sacrificed everything for them. I would sit in my living room at night, the same living room Jessica had mocked, and I would think about my life. 64 years old. Alone. My husband dead. My son gone. What did I have to show for all those years of hard work? An old house. An empty nest. A broken heart. But then something changed. It started small. I was sitting in my living room one evening, and I looked around at the furniture Jessica had called trash. I looked at the walls she said needed paint. I looked at the garden she called messy. And I thought, you know what? She was right about one thing. This place does need work. But not because it was ugly. Because it was mine, and I had stopped taking care of it. I had stopped taking care of myself. The next morning, I did something I hadn't done in years. I went to the mirror and really looked at myself. My hair was gray and messy. My clothes were old and faded. My shoulders were hunched like I was carrying the weight of the world. Margaret, I said to my reflection, you're not dead yet. Stop acting like you are. That day, I started making changes. Real changes. I called my old friend Rita, who I hadn't talked to in months because I'd been so busy taking care of Marcus and Jessica. Rita, I said, I need your help. About time you called me, girl, she said. I've been waiting for you to wake up. Rita came over that afternoon. She took one look at me and shook her head. Oh, Margaret, what did they do to you? I told her everything. About Jessica's cruelty. About Victoria's manipulation. About Marcus abandoning me without a word. I cried while I talked, and Rita held my hand. Listen to me, Rita said firmly. Those people don't deserve you.
And
you know what you're going to do? You're going to show them what they lost.
how?
I asked. I'm just me. Just you. Rita laughed. Margaret, you raised a son alone. You worked your fingers to the bone. You survived losing your husband. You're strong. You just forgot. That conversation changed something in me. That night, after Rita left, I sat down and made a list. All the things I had wanted to do, but never had time for because I was always taking care of someone else. Learn to paint.
Fix up the garden.
Take a cooking class. Join a book club. Maybe even travel somewhere. Just for me. The third month began, and I was a different person. I hired someone to help me paint the house. Not because Jessica was right, but because I chose colors I loved. Bright yellow for the kitchen. Soft blue for my bedroom. I bought new furniture with money I had been saving. I joined a gym and started walking every morning. I cut my hair in a short, stylish way that made me look younger. I signed up for an online course in digital marketing. I was 64, yes, but my brain still worked. I started a small consulting business from home, helping other small businesses with their bookkeeping. Word spread, and soon I had clients. Real clients who paid me good money. My house wasn't just clean anymore. It was beautiful. My garden bloomed with flowers I had planted myself. My bank account was growing. And me, I was happy. Truly happy. For the first time in years. I didn't need Marcus. I didn't need Jessica. I didn't need anyone's approval. I had finally learned to love myself. And that's when they came back. It was a Thursday afternoon, exactly 3 months and 2 days since they had left. I was in my beautiful new kitchen, wearing a stylish outfit I had bought for myself, when I heard a car pull up outside. I looked out the window, and my heart nearly stopped. It was a beat-up taxi. And climbing out of it, looking absolutely miserable, were Marcus and Jessica. Their clothes were wrinkled. Their faces were pale. Jessica's hair, which was always perfectly styled, looked like she hadn't washed it in days. Marcus's shoulders were slumped forward like he was carrying a mountain on his back. They pulled out the same suitcases they had taken to the mansion. The taxi driver helped them, looking at my house with curious eyes. They walked up to my front door. Marcus raised his hand to knock. I took a deep breath. My heart was pounding. Part of me wanted to throw the door open and hug my son, the part that had missed him so much it physically hurt. But another part of me, the new part, the part that had learned to respect myself, that part said, wait. I counted to 10. Then I opened the door. The looks on their faces were something I will never forget. Their eyes were red from crying. Their lips were trembling. Jessica looked like she wanted to fall to her knees. Mom, Marcus said, his voice cracking. Can we come in? I stood in the doorway and looked at them. Really looked at them. The son who had driven away without saying goodbye. The daughter-in-law who had told me to ROT in my house. Why? I asked simply. Jessica's face went white. Marcus opened his mouth, but no words came out. The taxi driver was still standing by his car, watching. His eyes were wide. "Mom, please," Marcus begged. "We have nowhere else to go." "What happened to the mansion?" I asked, keeping my voice calm. "What happened to the 12 bedrooms and 8 bathrooms? What happened to the pool and the fountains?" Jessica started crying, real tears running down her face. "She kicked us out," she sobbed. "My mother kicked us out." "Why?" Asked again. Marcus looked at the ground. Because I wouldn't do what she wanted." "Which was?" "She wanted me to quit my job," Marcus said quietly. "She wanted me to work for one of her companies. She wanted to control everything we did, where we went, who we talked to, what we wore. She treated us like prisoners. And when I told her no," Marcus continued, "she said we were ungrateful. She said if we didn't appreciate her generosity, we could leave. So she threw us out."
Just like that.
"She didn't even let us call a proper car service. She called a taxi and told the driver to take us anywhere but there." I looked at Jessica. "And what do you have to say?" Jessica wiped her eyes. I'm so sorry, Margaret. I was horrible to you. I said terrible things. I treated you like you were nothing. But you were right to take us in, and I was wrong to treat you that way. Please forgive me." The taxi driver was now leaning against his car, watching this like it was a movie. I stood there for a long moment. I thought about all the pain they had caused me, all the nights I cried myself to sleep, all the times I had called and they ignored me. But I also thought about the new Margaret, the one who had learned that forgiveness doesn't mean you forget. It doesn't mean you let people walk all over you again. I looked at Marcus. My son, the boy I had raised alone, the boy I had sacrificed everything for. "Do you know what these 3 months taught me?" I asked. Marcus shook his head, tears running down his face. "They taught me that I don't need anyone to be happy. They taught me that I am enough, all by myself. They taught me that people who truly love you don't abandon you when something better comes along." "Mom, I'm so sorry," Marcus started. I held up my hand. "I'm not finished. You both made a choice 3 months ago. You chose money over family. You chose a mansion over love. You chose to believe that I wasn't good enough for you." Jessica was crying so hard she could barely breathe. "But here's what you didn't know," I continued. "While you were living in that mansion, I was building a new life. I started my own business. I renovated this house. I made new friends. I learned that I am strong and capable and I don't need anyone's approval to be happy." I stepped aside and opened the door wider so they could see inside. Their jaws dropped. The house was transformed. New furniture, fresh paint, beautiful decorations. It looked like something from a magazine. This is your house," Jessica whispered. "Yes," I said. "And it's worth more to me than any mansion because I built this with my own hands and my own money. I didn't need anyone's charity. I didn't need anyone to save me." The taxi driver actually clapped. "Ma'am," he called out. "You are a queen." I smiled at him. Then I looked back at Marcus and Jessica. "So here's what's going to happen," I said firmly. "You can come inside. You can stay here temporarily while you figure out your lives. But there will be rules." "Anything," Marcus said quickly. "Anything you say." "First," I said, "you will respect this house and everything in it. Second, you will both get jobs and save money for your own place. Third, you will contribute to groceries and bills. And fourth," I paused and looked directly at Jessica, "you will apologize to me properly. Not because you need a place to stay, but because you mean it." Jessica fell to her knees right there on my porch. "Margaret, I am so sorry. I was cruel and selfish and blind. You are an amazing woman, and I was too stupid to see it. Please forgive me. I will spend the rest of my life making it up to you." The taxi driver was recording this on his phone now. I could see him smiling. Marcus stepped forward. "Mom, I failed you. I let her and her mother turn me against the one person who loved me unconditionally. I don't deserve your forgiveness, but I'm begging for a second chance. I'll work every day to prove to you that I'm still the son you raised. I felt tears in my own eyes now, but they weren't tears of sadness. They were tears of strength. Get inside, I said quietly. Both of you. They grabbed their suitcases and practically ran into the house. The taxi driver gave me a thumbs up, got in his car, and drove away, probably eager to tell everyone about what he had just witnessed. Inside, Marcus and Jessica looked around in amazement. Everything was different. Everything was beautiful. Mom, Marcus whispered, how did you do all this? I did it by believing in myself, I said. Something I should have done a long time ago. Over the next few weeks, true to their word, Marcus and Jessica followed every single rule. Marcus got a second job on weekends. Jessica started working as a waitress. They both contributed to bills. They cleaned. They cooked. They treated me with respect. Jessica's mother, Victoria, tried to call them multiple times. Marcus blocked her number. I don't need her control anymore, he said. I have everything I need right here. 3 months later, Marcus and Jessica moved into their own apartment. A small place, but it was theirs. They had saved up enough for the deposit and first month's rent. On the day they left, Jessica hugged me tight. Thank you, she whispered. Thank you for teaching me what real strength looks like. Marcus held me close. You're the most amazing woman I know, Mom. I'm sorry it took me losing everything to see it. After they left, I sat in my beautiful living room, sipping tea, and I smiled. I had lost my son for 3 months, but in those 3 months, I had found something even more valuable. I had found myself, and nobody could ever take that away from me again. If this story touched your heart, please like this video and share it with someone who needs to hear this message. Subscribe to this channel for more inspiring stories about strength, survival, and second chances. Drop a comment below telling me, have you ever had to rebuild yourself after someone broke you down? I read every comment, and I'd love to hear your story. Remember, you are stronger than you think, and you are enough, just as you are. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next story.